Hello again. I'm still playing about with pigment powders. I've got two more here. This one is indigo blue luscious pigment powder, and the colour is called Rusty Bucket. It's got fabulous twinkle in that one. This one is from a company called Pretty Gets Gritty, and it's called these powders are called Pretty Explosions. The colour of this one is called Zeus. It's made up of all sorts of colours, and depending on how much water you use with it, those colours are exposed. The stronger the mixture with water, the stronger mixture of powder to water, the deeper the colour will be. So I've been playing around and I thought to myself, how can I make a rusty bucket, or a bucket that looks like metal? So this is the card I made. The bucket is a die I've had for a very long time from Memory Box. The things inside the bucket are all from a Swedish company called Gummiapan. These little hazel twigs, I think, are just fabulous. And I can't remember what the name of that is. It's got a funny name. Sentiment from Avery L. Arch from Photoplay. And the background is a relaxed shaving foam piece of stuff that I've had in the drawer since the last time I did some relaxed shaving foam technique. So basically I made the card just as a base for this bucket. So let's just go through what I did. Here I have die cut two buckets, and you may be able to see, just let me see if you can see, the difference between the two. This one was just cut straight through. This one was cut and then kept in the die and put through the machine again with a rubber mat to emboss these lines. The die itself has got holes, it's got gaps where those lines are. So of course when the pressure is put on, the metal will make the impression, and the bits where the lines are won't get the impression, which is why these lines are shown up as ridges. There's a cut through here too, so that when you put anything in the bucket, it looks like it's in the bucket and not behind it. So a lovely die, I love it. There's a handle, very, very fragile, that you can put on or not as you wish. I've sometimes cut off these little lugs just to make it like a flower pot. But anyway, you know, you can do what you like, really, as I've said many times before. I wanted to show you the difference between the two, but what I'm actually going to do is to stick them together to make it a bit more of a rigid piece of card. Just put a bit of glue on and stick them together. Okay. There we go. It will be shaped better if it's a little bit thicker, a little bit stronger. Okay. Now, what I did for this one was to use these powders as paints initially. So I have a little palette here, and all I'm going to do, this is the one that did have that in, I'm just going to put a tiny drop of water. That's enough. And now I'm going to sprinkle some of the powder into that section. And I've missed my aim a little bit, but we won't worry about that. There's a bit of water on my brush as well, just make sure it's nice and clean. I'm just going to mix this up. Let's pick that bit up as well. I don't think that is quite thick enough. I'm going to put just a drop more in. Oh. Okay, let's try that. That's better. So I've got my bucket colour, and in this one I have some of the, or did have some of the Rusty Bucket Luscious Pigment Powder. This one is a little bit more awkward because to put into a pot like this because it doesn't have a sprinkler. So I'm going to put a tiny drop of water in there, and this thing is supposed to be, you sort of have a rubber cover on the end to spread pan pastels, but I'll use it without that for this. So let's put some of this luscious powder in and we'll mix up this one. Okay. I've got a thinner brush here. Mix it all up till we've got some good thick colour. Now, I played around with all sorts of dyes here, trying this first, that first, squirting it, painting it, spraying it, doing all sorts. And the one that I kind of liked the best was when I started off by putting on some of this colour in places where I thought it might show. At the bottom of the bucket, around the handles, probably around some of these lines, and just left it at that. And then I went over the top with the Zeus, what a wonderful name, and just went over the top completely. Don't worry, I'm coming back to it. And I wanted to take my brush marks in the direction that I thought the sort of grain of the bucket would be. A bit thicker on that side there. Kind of looks buckety already, doesn't it? Now, what I did after that was I took a dry brush, another one, went back with my rusty bucket, dipped the dry fluffy brush into the powder and just dabbed a bit more on in a few places while it's still slightly wet. There's all drop some on the top there. There's all sorts of twinkle in here. It's so pretty. Do you see? I don't know what that is. I play around for hours trying to just mess around and see what I like the look of. So there, I think that so quick, a rusty bucket. Now just put this, you don't have to clean these up. They will dry up and then you can reactivate them just by adding a drop more water. So don't when I first started doing this kind of thing, I used to painstakingly wipe out every single one. As long as I've got a clean one somewhere for a new colour perhaps, then I don't bother cleaning, use them again because they will be reactivated with water. Just wipe this, leave that to dry. Oh, I tell you what I haven't done that. Where's my handle? Here's my handle. Oh, wow. Nearly forgot that. We'll shove that into here. Let's take a look, see if it... got nothing. That's probably all right. You do get well, I do. Other people might be a lot more prudent with the way they deal with inks, but and paints and powders and goodness knows what, but I think that'll be fine. A bit more water in there. Yeah, that'll be fine. Now I'll clear up. I was going to clear up a moment ago, but there. Now, how I deal with the bucket once it's dry, I can dry it with my heat tool in for a moment, and then we can see how I carry on with the things that go in. But while it's just drying for a moment, I'd like to show you this piece here. This was an experimental on and off cut, an experimental play with some of these powders. This one is that with a lot of water. these two, there's two different ones here, are more of these pretty Gets Gritty ones. One's called Mermaid, the bluey goldy one, and the purpley one is called Unicorn. And I just squirted some water onto the card. It's not watercolour card, it's just offcuts of my regular card. Squirted some water onto the card with my spritzer and then just shook a few of the powders on, and this is what happened. So I thought that I would use some of this for the plants to go into my bucket. I've got here a little jug I've just done. I haven't got it into a card yet, but I used exactly the same process for this jug. The jug is a dye by Gummy Pan, and the Swedish company, and so are the little, they look like grape hyacinths, don't they? I'm not quite sure what they are. But what I did was this. I placed those dyes just with the flower bit over the colour and the stem in the white. I then just coloured the stem with a little pumice stone distress oxide just to tone it down and make it more in keeping with the colour of the jug. So that's what I did for those. And for the card I just showed you, I used this other dye, also from Gummy Pan, and did the same thing, but in this section here. So I'll just cut a couple of those now. Bring this a little bit closer. With the head of the plant just on the colour, and the tail, the stem, in the white part. Let's just cut one out like this. But as I say, these were basically just experiments. Just for me, the colours came, and I thought, well, I wonder what this looks like, and I just played around, and I thought, well, I'll keep that, but just look what a fabulous plant that makes. Isn't that terrific? And I've probably got room for another one just down there. Let's try and get one more out of just there. Doesn't matter if there's some bits of white on. You can always add a bit of colour with anything that'll make a colour later on. And I think two will be absolutely fine. Let's have a look at this. Look, aren't they beautiful? Look. I think those are terrific. Absolutely terrific. We seem to have gone out of... Let me come in a bit closer. Let's... here they are. Let me show you again. I ought to look more closely, really. Look at those. They're lovely. So what I go about doing for this, I think it's nearly dry now, is just to bend it slightly, like this, to give it the rounded shape. Just with my fingers. This bit, can you see there is a slit? That's where we can put the plants in. And to arrange them, all I do is to get a piece of double-sided tape, stick it on the back, and I have a couple of pieces. I think I'll take that one off. Take the back off that one, and one more piece. I'm going to overlap a bit, that's why I took that off first. Onto the other side. I think I went over the edge there a bit. Yes, I did. Okay. Right. Now, when I arrange my plants in there, they will stay in the position I want them in because they'll stick to that double-sided tape. So, in it goes and stick. In it goes. Where should we go? And stick. I can then put some of my hazel twig ones in as well. Could leave them white if I wanted. I could put some more colour on if I wanted. Let's see what they look like white. Quite like them white. Some more. Here's another one. I just love the haphazardness of these things. I think they're gorgeous. Just pop it in and stick. Sticking to that double-sided tape at the back. I'm not going to be assembling the whole card today because I think they're kind of self-explanatory, but I just wanted you to see some of the ways that you can make a card a bit more alive by adding dimension to it. Whoopsie-daisy. See where we want it, about there, I would think. That's fine. Now, to make sure that that shape is kept when I come to put this onto the card, and it'll also help to anchor these plants in position, what I can do is to put a piece of double-sided tape. I've got a wider bit here than I usually use. It down there, just down the centre, because the bits at the side here have got some of this tape on, so they should be stuck to the card. This will be stuck to the card, making sure that I keep that shape right there. So when it would come to assembly, I could do this. I have a 5x7 card base there. I have a panel which I cut, and then I cut the arch out. This is the photoplay arch. And you may see that this panel is smaller than this panel, but it wasn't intended to be smaller. When I cut the arch out, it actually wasn't square. It wasn't parallel to the edge of the panel, so I had to get a smaller one of my Prescott nesting dies to cut it down so that I could make it square with the window. So I may well put another piece to make white, just to make it a bit wider. I don't know yet, but it can go in a window. I could put some of the relaxed shaving foam behind if I wanted to. I could put a sentiment on. You know, it's your creativity that would take your card in whatever direction you wanted it to go. But for the moment, I just wanted you to see how I went about doing the bucket. I can glue my handle and just stick that on. These two little lugs at the end just kind of hook behind the ones on the top here. Just put that in there and in there like that, and just hold it down for a moment or two until it's stuck. But it's just so, I don't know actually if I must take a look and see if this this die is still in production, but I as I say, I have had it a long time. There we are, and that's ready to be stuck onto another card. So have a bit of fun. Try playing with your powders if you have them. You can, as I said, you can paint with them, which is how I coloured the bucket, or you can just spritz them and do this kind of thing with them, so that you can use some of your smaller die cuts to be cut from that. And that's just water from a spritzing bottle like this onto a piece of card. So there you go. As ever was, thank you so much for watching. Do give me a thumbs up if you think it was a bit of fun. And if you haven't subscribed, I would be really grateful if you did. So thank you so much.